Welcome back everyone. Today we're going to talk about why you should become an IT consultant and how you can become an IT consultant. In my career in IT, I've done many different roles. I've worn many different hats. I've been a service desk analyst, I've been a desktop engineer, I've been a Wintel engineer, which is like a system engineer. I've been a senior system engineer, so specializing in all things VMware, Azure, Microsoft 365, general Windows Server. I haven't really done much Linux stuff, but general system engineer role and a senior role as well. I've also been the tech lead, so a consultant within my team among many different types of techs and different tech stacks. I've also been a solution architect, major sort of focus on Microsoft Azure there. And then I've become a principal cloud consultant. I do actually already have a video that goes through my background and goes through the roles that I've had in my past and what I thought of those roles and how I got into those roles. I will leave that video in the description below and in the card above my head if I remember to add it there. For today, what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few things that I did in my career to get me from a service desk analyst to a principal cloud consultant. And I'm going to make some suggestions on how you can become an IT consultant. Before we get started, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, give me some motivation to keep bringing you guys videos full of value. Any questions, drop them in the comments below. Let's go. So first things first. If you're looking to become a principal cloud consultant and you are starting from absolutely nothing, then the first thing you should do is get into IT. The way that people get into IT these days is pretty easy. I mean, when I say easy, I mean people with a bit of IT experience can usually land an entry-level role in IT just by applying to a few entry-level jobs like service desk analyst or a help desk engineer, or sometimes even customer service representative roles that have a bit of an IT focus. Those are fine too. What I would suggest is going into one of those types of roles as one of your first roles. So don't try and skip that role. I think that is a big detriment to your career. And I think that you will end up missing a lot of the skills that people get at service desk level. When you land that service desk role, my suggestion is take it seriously and be the best that you can. So a lot of the time in these service desk roles, like I know from my experience that a lot of those service desk roles, they end up being like time fillers for a lot of people. So a lot of people will actually be doing university degrees or college degrees while they're filling these service desk roles. And I think that's great. But often when we're at uni or college, maybe it's not the most serious time of our lives, and a lot of the time we're sort of doing just things to make a bit of money on the side. My suggestion would be take it seriously regardless what else you're doing in your life. Take IT seriously, take your role as a service desk analyst seriously. Be the best that you can in that role and really try and learn the role and absorb the role and understand how you communicate with people about IT who are not IT savvy. So one of the most important skills I learned in service desk was talking to non-technical people about technical things. So something as simple as explaining to a user how they can reset their own password, but explaining it to them in a way that they understand from all different walks of life. So whether they're a construction worker or whether they're a government worker or whether they are a lawyer, someone that maybe doesn't use IT that much, you still need to be able to explain IT to them. And I think that is a very, very good skill to have as a consultant as well. And that learning starts right at the start of your IT career in service desk. Next thing is to learn. Do not stop learning. IT is all about learning. My opinion, IT is one of those roles where the minute you stop learning, you start to become dated with your knowledge. We all know that IT develops rapidly. So what I would suggest with this is to just keep studying, keep learning about the new tech that's coming in. So if you have an interest in VMware, if you have an interest in AWS, if you have an interest in Google Cloud, then you should always be trying to learn the latest things in the platform. The best way I think for you to learn those things is to actually deploy them yourself. So if you see a new feature come out in Google Cloud or a new feature come out in G Suite or something like that, maybe you should try and deploy it in your own little lab or something like that. I think it's a great idea to just always be on top of these techs because they are ever changing, and like I said, the minute that you stop learning those new techs, that's when you'll be beat. Keep asking questions. So in my career, one thing that I've learned is that if I think I know everything, there's always one person that knows or multiple people that know much more than me. So the way that you sort of take advantage of that is that you be friendly with people, you ask questions, you learn what other people do in IT, you learn what a certain company does in IT, you learn what a certain organization does, or a certain team or department, you learn what all those people do, and you try and absorb everything. Doesn't mean you have to really absorb everything that that person knows and become a master at that field as well, but you should try and get a basic understanding of everything. So applications, databases, networks, you try and get an understanding of everything in IT, or a lot of the things in IT, for you to be able to consult on everything in IT. So as an IT consultant, you're always going to be consulting on many different types of things. So you need to actually have basic understanding of a lot of those things and to be a master in a small amount of them. Number 3 is to work in a managed services provider. So I think this is a very important step in your IT career on the way to becoming a consultant. And that's because most consultants are going to come from a managed services provider or someone who does IT consulting, for example. This is my opinion, and a lot of people might disagree with me, but I think that you learn a lot more at a managed services firm than you do working on internal IT teams or internal IT departments. And this is simply just because in an MSP, you're way more likely to be working on plenty of different tech stacks. So there's much more chance that your clients will use AWS and Azure and Google Cloud and G Suite and Microsoft 365. You might be able to get a feel in every single one of those techs just by working at one MSP if you are motivated enough to work on many different clients. Like it or not, at managed service providers, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about how MSPs work, which is great as a consultant, and you learn a lot about what your clients do in terms of their tech stacks. So you might have one client that does something in Microsoft Azure and another client that does something in AWS, but you might be able to pick up one thing that you learn in this client and apply it to this client just in a different tech stack. If you have all that type of experience, it just gives you a more broader understanding of the IT practices and IT technologies that are used amongst businesses. This is really important as a consultant because you want to be able to give your clients the best type of advice possible based on your experience and based on what's out there. That leads me into my next point, which is to focus on your customers. So when you're working in a managed services provider, or you can apply this to working in an internal team as well, you should always focus on your customers or your staff or employees or your teams. You should always apply the most focus to them, because really at the end of the day, as engineers, or I've been an engineer, so as a previous engineer, I think it's very important that you understand business from the business side as well, not just from the IT side. So when I was in IT many years ago and I sort of didn't have the same mentality that I have now, I would be very focused on the technology and very focused on the IT and very focused on the type of technology stack that the customer is using. But really what I noticed is that the customer is less focused on that and more focused on their business. So the outcome you can provide to the business, the value that you can provide to the business. So for example, when I was once upon a time working at a client, and that client was a logistics company. That client had a Citrix environment, and every time that Citrix environment would go down, I'd be really focused on the impact of the Citrix environment being down in terms of tech. So this is down, which means backup isn't working, which means X isn't working, which means Y isn't working. But really what I started to learn to develop, especially working at an MSP, is that sometimes you have to take a step back and look at the actual impact it's having on the business. So what I realized was that every time Citrix was going down for this company on a weekend, they would have ships that are docked at the port, which meant that they weren't making money because those ships weren't moving to deliver product. So what that taught me was to start thinking about things from a more business impact perspective, which then also taught me that, yep, IT tech does matter, but what is more important. So I think that has then taught me that, yes, you do need to be worried about the tech stack or what the customers are actually using in terms of their technology and their environment. But what's more important is the value that you can add as a consultant, or the value that you can show a customer using a certain tech stack. There's no point in going into a customer and saying we can achieve an SLA of 99.95 if the customer doesn't really care about having that. If you're just flexing that because that's what you know is available in the platform that you know, like Microsoft Azure or something like that, that's great. But if the customer doesn't want 99.95, then why is it important to them? You need to talk to them about the value that they can add to their business and the outcomes that they can achieve in their business using that tech stack. So for example, if this environment goes down, so if your Citrix environment goes down, we can have the same environment spun up in 30 minutes so that you can get the ships moving. That might be a better way to present something like that. The next thing I would focus on is experimentation. So as an IT tech, you'll see here I have a lot of tech stack that I play around with, a lot of mucking around in my home labs, in my home environment, and my own Azure labs. I think it's very important as someone in IT to actually enjoy doing it. And once upon a time, someone told me that the way that you know you're working with what you love is see if you can do it for free. And that those words had a big impact on me because I think that I've been doing that forever anyway. So ever since I was a little kid, I've always been playing with IT and wasting my time, well, not wasting my time, but spending a lot of my time doing things that people were like, why are you even bothering? Like spinning up web servers and spinning up websites when I was a little kid for no reason, just because I felt like it. Those were the type of things that I was interested in, but it's not like that has just disappeared now. I still do things like that. I still sit there and spin up an Azure environment and run a domain controller in it and try some pretty cool nifty tech that's in Azure. So one of the latest things that I'm trying now is trying to do some face detection using some Azure microservices. So that's the type of thing that you should really be trying to do in your free time and really trying to explore. I think that we can learn a lot by spending some time in our free time just building basic environments. I know all of my friends who are in consulting as well, they all have home labs running VMware or labs in Microsoft Azure or AWS or sometimes even Google Cloud. I think it's all those types of things help my friends and my colleagues in the industry become better at what they do. And once you know a tech stack more, and once you deploy a tech stack, and once you troubleshoot the tech stack, I think that's when you really learn what the restrictions are there. So when a customer comes to you and you're an IT consultant and they ask you, can you do X and Y in this platform? You're going to know that because you've probably been playing around with it already. So you can talk from experience, because talking from experience after experimentation is probably the best way to get your point across to a customer. And I think it's the best way to emphasize what you know and to emphasize that you know it best. So you want the customer to come to you because you are the authority on that tech, and you want to be able to talk about it like you know it like the back of your hand. Ask for promotions at work. Early in my career, I noticed that IT is very easy to get very comfortable in. So a lot of the people that I know in IT have landed good roles where they're paid well and they like what they do. And that's fine, that's great. A lot of people are happy to do that, and that's great. I'm happy for them and I wish them all the best. As long as people have some fulfillment in their roles, then that's great. For those people who want to keep moving in their career and they want to keep making progression in their career, you have to ask questions like, can I take this on? Can I take that on? Can I take on this stack? Can I work on this client? Can I work on this environment? You need to be able to go out and speak to your manager or your department heads or your CIO or your COO or CEO. You need to be able to go out and tell them, hey, I think that I want to work on this environment. Maybe we should build a small lab in our organization so that I can learn it and then see what we can apply in our actual production environment. On top of that, you need to be asking for promotions. You need to be going in and proving yourself. So you need to be making yourself valuable to your company or to your customers. If you're working in MSP, you need to really own a client or a couple of clients so that that client really doesn't want to lose you. Once you have that sort of leverage and that the customer really likes you and they only want to deal with this person at this company, then you have leverage at your MSP to go to your manager or go to your heads of and say, I want a promotion. Otherwise, I need to leave because I'm trying to keep moving in my career. I want to go from a system engineer to a senior system engineer. Can you help me out? You're going to be a lot more inclined to help you if you've gone and built those strong relationships with your customers. Once you get to that IT consulting role, you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to be going to your customers and you're going to be really entrenching yourselves in their environment and becoming very friendly with them and building rapport with them so that you can help them build the best outcome for their problem and build the best solution for their problem. And once you have that sort of relationship with them, you can always leverage that to keep growing in your career. I say this one a lot, but pick your tech and pick your niche. These two things will help you grow in a certain field or a certain tech to a point where you become the real authority and the real SME of that tech. So I'll give you an example. When I was working on a certain customer, I noticed that they were one of the first people that were using Microsoft 365 in our organization. So in my MSP that I was working at, there was a client coming on board and they were one of the first people that were going to use Microsoft 365 within all of our clients. Now, a lot of the other engineers sat there and they were a bit worried about taking on the client because they wouldn't know how to troubleshoot issues, they wouldn't know how to maintain users, and they just basically didn't have that much experience in Microsoft 365. The thing is, neither did I, but I wanted to learn Microsoft 365. So I took that client on, I put my hand up and I said, I will take on that client because that's what I want to learn and I want to keep growing in that field. And 5 or 6 years later, I am now the subject matter expert in Microsoft 365 and I consult on many things Microsoft 365. But that all started when I had that mentality of continually learning within my niche. So picking something and really just focusing on that. So I picked Microsoft 365 and I learned it inside and out. So I really wanted to focus on that because I could see that there was a lot of customers coming on board with Microsoft 365 and I noticed that I could leverage that to become an IT consultant later on. Now, in my current field, I have customers coming to me all the time saying, you know, we're using G Suite or Gmail, whatever it's called now, we want to move to Microsoft 365, and I've become that person that they go to for that. So you need to start building your niche or building your focus now. You need to start focusing on something. So if you really like VMware, if you really like using vSAN technology, maybe you can focus on VMware. So take on all the clients that have VMware, learn all the things that are VMware related, learn all the new things that are coming out from VMware, deploy your own VMware environments, entrench yourself in that tech stack, learn VMware to the point where everyone in your organization goes, oh yeah, that person is the VMware guy, let's go to him and ask him. The IT consulting phase of your career starts way before you get the job title. You need to be a consultant long before you actually get the job, because you don't just one day wake up with a new job title and have all these new skills that are consulting. You need to be consulting for everyone. You consult for your customers, you consult for your team, you consult for your management. You need to be able to talk about that tech stack like you created it. Last but not least, once you get that IT consulting role, do not stop. Once you're happy with the job that you landed as an IT consultant, don't stop. You're going to have to keep learning. Unfortunately, the tech just keeps rolling in. So you're going to have to keep picking those tech stacks that you like. You're going to have to pick those technologies that you like. You're going to have to actually want to learn them so that you can consult on them. So ever since I've become an IT consultant, many things have come out. And as soon as they come out, I sit there and I deploy them. So I see something new come out in Azure, I go out and I deploy it in Azure. I try and learn the tech stack so that by the time the customer comes to me and asks me, hey, have you ever used Azure Auto Manage? I go, oh yeah, I've deployed that in the past, maybe not into production. I use it in public preview or private preview or something like that, but I do have experience in it. That is something your customers will really benefit from, and so will you, because you will always be on top of your game. Try and always be the person that gets all those tech stacks first. Or try and be that person that always deploys something as soon as it comes out, because then you can field questions about it. Make sure you keep progressing in your career, pitch new ideas to your team, to your management teams. Make sure that you are continuously improving within yourself and within your team, and try and bring the people around you up with you so that you can delegate tasks and you can keep learning. So don't try and hold on to things and pigeonhole yourself because you're the only person that knows this tech stack. Make sure that you teach the people around you how to fix things. So people come up to you and ask questions. Don't always just give them the answer. Try and lead them to the answer instead, because then they grow as a person and in their career as well, which frees you up to keep learning things in your career and keep improving yourself and keep improving your skills. I hope that has been somewhat helpful. All the best of luck in your IT career. I know IT can be very challenging. It can feel like there is a lot of people trying to do the same thing as you, but you can make it. You can become an IT consultant. If I can do it, any of you guys can. If there's any questions or anything about my career that you want to hear more about, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, please drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time.